Anti-Semitic attacks are being reported in U.S. cities as tensions flare up over the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. This is happening, folks, and I know exactly who to blame. It's going to be conservatives. Just a lead up. It's going to be good. You guys know where it's going to, Big surprise. Several Jewish people have been attacked in cities across the U.S. this week. Authorities are investigating assaults in New York and Los Angeles as tensions flare over the Israeli-Palestinian conflict amid days of violence between Israel and Hamas militants in Gaza. Again, I love that language. Days of violence between Israel and Hamas militants that left hundreds of people dead. Every time with the news articles, I love it, A man was arrested after a 29-year-old Jewish man was punch-kicked and pepper-sprayed Thursday during it. Jesus Christ, you're going to pull out the pepper spray for a hate crime? That's some beta shit right there. During an incident in New York City's Times Square, a source within the New York City Police Department told CNN. The assault involved 5 to 6 men, who allegedly yelled anti-Semitic statements, the police source told CNN. And there have been a number of such incidents, okay? Now, I'm going to come out with a hot take, and it's going to seem hot, but when you think about it for just a picosecond, okay? Just a picosecond, all right? It's going to become really, really obvious. Now, who benefits from this? Obviously not the guy who got the shit beaten out of him, okay? Who benefits from this? Is it Palestinian people? Probably not. Sincerely doubt Palestinian people are going to benefit from whatever political repercussions there are to hate crimes being committed against Jewish people in the U.S. The only people who benefit from this, the only group that benefits from this, is Israel, because it does exactly what they try to do. They try to conflate Jewishness with Israel, Jewishness with Zionism. And in doing so, they lead to shit like this. If you make the argument that all good Jews are Zionists, it's Ben Shapiro, by the way, that, a Jewish person is a Zionist and a Zionist is a Jewish person, etc., back and forth, what have you, then you implicitly make all Jewish people responsible for Israeli war crimes, which I think is kind of anti-Semitic. Personal opinion of mine. I think that's a little bit bad. Just a little bit bad to conflate, to make an entire religious, ethnic, cultural identity a state, to make it responsible, to directly relate its actions and their interests and failings and blah, blah to a state. No, this is terrible. I hate Israel. Many people hate Israel, sometimes for good reason. Nobody should hate Jewish people at all. Zero reason, okay? There's absolutely no excuse for this bullshit, but this is a direct result of the language that conservative Zionists engage in. They want this because now when Israel does something bad, okay, now people who buy into that bullshit, they attack Jewish people, and many of them, probably would have attacked Jewish people anyway. I don't think that the actions of Israel make people anti-Semitic. I don't think that's an excuse. Like, oh, Israel is bad. I have no choice sociologically but to attack Jewish people in the state of New York. No, I don't buy that, okay? But it should be noted that the direct conflation of these two groups of people leads to stuff like this. Maybe not every time. Maybe you can't find a direct one-to-one correlation between any given hate crime and its causes, but generally, yeah, this is what happens. And by the way, this is precisely the type of logic that bigots and anti-Semites have used for thousands of years. How many groups, how many Christians have led crusades against the Jews, claiming that they are responsible for the crucifixion of Christ because Judas was a Jew? By making Jewish people responsible for the crimes perceived or otherwise of individual agents, individual instances, groups, governments, states, by projecting blame onto an ethnic, a cultural, a religious group from the actions of a smaller group, you enable hate. Jesus was a Jew. Yeah, have you listened to Nazis talk about Jesus? They seem to forget this fact. I don't know. I can't get into that. I don't know what crusaders were thinking. Christ. But you understand, don't you? You understand, right? This is the logic that they engage in every single time. When you want to attack a broader ethnic group, if you want to persecute an entire religious community, what do? Well, you make them responsible for the bad actions of some smaller group within that community. And every community has bad apples. Any community. Christ, you want to go after redheads? Just round up some really shitty redheads and say it has something to do with their redhead genes or whatever. It always, always happens. Okay? We need to, for the sake of Jewish people, first and foremost, make it exceedingly clear, that Israel is not Jewish people and Jewish people is not Israel. Okay? Simple as that. I mean, Christ, can you imagine this otherwise? Imagine if Italy finally detonated the subterranean bombs that detached it from the rest of the European continent and began floating across the world as some kind of mega Catholic fortress, okay? Airstriking all the adjacent what have yous. Would we say all Catholics now are responsible for this? No, this is... Hold on. No. No, we shouldn't. We shouldn't do that. No. 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 We shouldn't do that. No. No. We shouldn't do that. But we should respond with immediate retributive military force against the floating island fortress of Israel. Of course. We're getting silly. Look, the point is, this is obviously a tragedy. No individuals should be subject to hate crimes. No individuals should be subject to prejudice based on the behavior of states that happen to be run by people of their religious group. Oh, did I say Israel instead of Italy? Oh my God. I meant Italy. I said island fortress. They both start with an I. Did I really misspeak, or are you all just pulling my leg? No, you didn't? Wait, half of you were saying I didn't. Oh, you did say Israel. Okay, I see. Well, said island fortress. Thank you. Well, we enjoyed our presence on Twitch while we had it. Anyway, of course, military action against Italy is always going to be more defensible than military action against any other government. There's no getting around that. Well, one way or another, it is a tragedy what is taking place. And if you take a look at the numbers, if you take a look at the available resources, it's abundantly clear that Jewish people in America are actually subject to the most disproportionate rate of hate crime violence against them of, to my knowledge, any broader community. Seriously, that's not a joke. I remember I looked at these stats on stream sometime in the recent past, but I think it was some extraordinary number. I mean, except for black people? No, 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 no. Not even close. Compared to how many Jewish people there are in America, their proportion of the population, Jewish people represent an astronomical proportion of hate crimes. Something like 6 or 7 times as much as like the next most hate crime community proportional to the population, which is insane. I would love to see that data again. Find the stat. Yeah, we can take a look. Okay. Frequency of hate crimes by group. Perhaps we can. Hate crime statistics. Maybe this will... Okay, yes, the largest. Crimes against person, location type. Okay, this doesn't tell me which race, ethnicity, ancestry, bias, or religion. That's kind of... hate crimes by group. Jewish people? Can I just get data specifically on this, perhaps? Oh, here we go. Not quite the number that I remember, not the data that I remember, but pretty clear, no? New 2018 FBI data, Jews were 2.7 times more likely than black people, 2.2 times more likely than Muslims to be a hate crime victim. It's insane how disproportionate their treatment is. This is also the case in France. Anti-Semitism never went away. There are a lot of people, a lot of dumbfuck lefties too, let's be clear, who are under the impression that just because Jewish people aren't like all super duper poor or whatever means that they're no longer victimized or oppressed in any way. This is absolutely ridiculous. Jewish people are the recipients of an absurd amount of discriminatory treatment. And that's the reason why, in spite of whatever insane meme bullshit I spawn by misspeaking during my serious live stream segments, I've always taken anti-Semitism extremely seriously. It's why it's something I think a lot of people downplay or understate. So, uh, yeah. Kraut said you were raising money to murder Jewish children. Kraut is an avowed Islamophobe who pals around with neo-Nazis and has not changed since his 2016 point. Thunderfoot left the skeptic community because Kraut was so toxic, and he is a massive crybaby who constantly whines and plays victim to the treatment that other people have given to him when he's responsible for some of the worst abuses that could be found in that community. He's an enormous piece of shit, and it's not surprising to me that he dislikes me. Anti-Semitism is super pervasive. When a kid in my first grade class found out I was Jewish, he told me I would burn in hell for my sins. Well, to be fair, Christians will tell a lot of people that, depending on the circumstances. No, one of the big issues is that, unfortunately, most conspiracism leads back to anti-Semitism. Have you guys noticed that? The reason for that is because, how do you say this exactly? Most conspiracies rely on the idea that there is um, that there's some big crazy super secret group running everything, and when you're left believing that, the problem is there are already a bunch of pre-existing conspiracy theories which put Jews in that position, and it's kind of a path of least resistance deal when you think about it, you know? Like, because it's like there are so many conspiracy theories where like Jews are in charge. So if you get involved in these communities, they all kind of bleed together until like it all ends up being the same sort of thing, basically. Ever heard the music industry was run by Jews? I keep freaking hearing about that. There are a lot of Jewish people in positions of power across the United States for reasons which are fairly simple if you think about it. First of all, historically, Jews tend to be shoved into industries that place upon them a decent amount of financial power and responsibility. You can blame Christians for that one. That was Christians' backwood traditions that forced this to be the case. And second of all, due to the fact that major cities tend to be better havens for discriminated minorities, a lot of Jewish people in America live in the largest, most prosperous, and most politically relevant cities in America. If the most of Jewish people in America are in like New York and Los Angeles, is it really a surprise they're going to be disproportionately represented in like industries that come from these places? No, this is not surprising to me at all. This is very simple sociology. Not to mention, most Jewish people are white. When a lot of it's the Nazi types too, they think a Jewish person, they think like a rabbi or something. Most Jewish people are just like white guys. Just like they're just white guys. It's just white guys. They just look like white guys. And a lot they always do this thing. They're like, huh, they're white when they want to be, but Jewish when it's convenient. No, they're just both at all times. What? No, they're just both. What? I'm white when I want to be, but I'm also gay when I want to. No, I'm a white gay. What do you want? The worst thing you can be.